Welcome to Disruption Blueprint with Shannon Spotswood from RFG Advisory. In this podcast, we help advisors grow their net worth, build their businesses, and maximize their independence. We've built an award-winning platform with innovative technology, comprehensive service, and a team of individuals who are experts in their field to serve advisors. Join us for this journey where we explore everything that has to do with running an independent advisor practice as we bring together successful advisors, industry experts, and innovative minds who are on the bleeding edge to challenge the status quo, foster new ideas, and create a path for advisors to unleash their growth potential. Now, on to the show.
If you're an advisor or business owner who feels like you're doing all the right things, but still not breaking through to the next level, this episode is for you. Because the gap between good and elite isn't talent, it's discipline, mindset, and what you do every single day when no one's watching. I'm Shannon Spotswood, and today on Disruption Blueprint, I'm joined by one of my favorite people, Phillip Deas. Phillip has spent decades coaching leaders, building high-performance teams on and off the football field, and helping business owners develop the habits and mental toughness that actually compound into long-term success. In this conversation, we're breaking down how to reset your mindset daily, how to build discipline that sticks, and how elite leaders stay focused, resilient, and intentional in seasons of growth and pressure. So if you're ready to lead better, grow smarter, and show up at your highest level in 2026 and beyond, you're going to absolutely love this episode. Let's jump into the deep end of the pool here, Phillip. We're talking about clarity, intentionality, and discipline. Give us your thoughts.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I'm excited to be with you today and really pumped about this conversation we're going to have. When you say that, the thing that comes to my mind is this thought of nothing great comes into the world without discipline. There's nothing you see that is great in the world that doesn't take a lot of discipline. If you see somebody who has a clean garage, that takes a lot of discipline, right? You see somebody that has a great marriage, man, we know that takes a lot of discipline. Somebody who builds a great company, it takes a lot of discipline. Somebody has a great physical body, a great physique, right? What does that take? A lot of discipline. Everything you see that is great in the world takes discipline. So if that is true, then the thing that should come to us is, okay, how do I develop this discipline muscle on a daily basis? Because I want to bring something great into the world. I want to be a great parent. I want to be a great spouse. I want to be a great leader. I want to be a great human. If I want to bring greatness, and discipline is the pathway to get that greatness into the world, how do I develop that discipline muscle in my life? And so I think it becomes a very big question of what are the things that we need to do to become more disciplined. So for the end result, and that's why discipline is not fun, Shannon. You know that, I know that, right? We're not disciplined just to be disciplined, right? We are disciplined for what? For the outcome. We are disciplined for the result. And so if we want that result, how do we get the discipline that brings that greatness that is in us out into the world? And so I do believe in this power of discipline for sure.
Well, and what is, as we're thinking about New Year's and goals and New Year's resolutions and discipline, that puts us directly on the pathway around mindset. And how, this is, I think, one of the most important cornerstones of a life well lived is how you are cultivating and the intentionality by which you bring towards your mindset. And, what we always say is that mindset is two words. It's mind, set. And it requires you to commit. It requires that discipline that you speak of every single day. So I want to dig in on that because I think that's the perfect way to start. You've shared with me about the 24-hour rule. Mindset has a 24-hour expiration date. Every day you have to have intentionality, set your mind for how you want to show up. So, for a high performing leader or an advisor or really, anyone who desires that next level of greatness, what does that daily reset look like in practice?
Yeah, and that's why I like to call it that mindset reset, right? And I believe that needs to happen every day. I believe your mindset expires every 24 hours, right? And you have got to reactivate that mindset going into the next day. And when you talk about that, it's just like football, right? That's my background. When you won the last game, right, that doesn't mean you're going to win the next game, right? Like that, we go, that's foolish, right? It's like, so just because I win yesterday, that doesn't mean I'm going to win today. If I don't do the things that created the win yesterday, I'm not going to recreate the win today. And the only way I win is one of the reasons I win is I have this mindset. So that's why I'm always talking about this mindset reset, this ability to reset. Now, we're coming into the new year, which becomes like an automatic reset for people, right? A new year, new you, right? I mean, you got your New Year's resolutions, right? People start writing all these things down, but statistically, we know, right, that somewhere between the second and third week of January is where most people stop those resolutions. Over half of people are going to stop in the first 3 weeks. And then you got about another 40% that are going to last a little bit longer into February. But we know that only 8% of people are actually going to carry out those resolutions through the year. So that means 92% of people are going to stop. Well, it's because they're just using January 1st as a reset. But what if they use January 2nd and January 3rd and January 4th and they reset that mindset every day? So it doesn't matter if they won or lost the day before. If they hit their goal or missed their goal, they could reset their mindset and start fresh and new according to their goal. And so there's one of the production pathways that I work through when I'm talking about mindset is right. It starts with alignment, right? You got to be in alignment with where you're trying to go, who you're trying to become. You got to have some alignment with the identity that you are trying to create, which is a big key to what we're talking about right now. There's got to be alignment. But every day you have to get into agreement with the alignment that you've already set for your life. When you get into agreement with the alignment, now I move into action. Okay. When I start that action is what creates advancement, progress. I'm moving, right? And the end result of advancement is going to be achievement. I can reach any goal that I set my mind to. I can reach anything that I really want to reach if I'm willing to do what it takes. So I set the alignment, but I have to get in agreement every day. And that's the challenge. And so that's why I need that mindset reset because the power of agreement. I've got to get in agreement with I'm going to do what I said I was going to do, what I got in alignment with for the goal that I wanted to reach. And that has to happen every single day. And so the way that we want to do that is we want to end the day with reflection on the day. And we want to start the next day with a brand new direction, right? Like we're starting that day over on that pathway. And I think that those two things, when you ask about the practical habit, we want to have a reflection at the end of the day. Did I do what I said I was going to do or did I not? Simple. I have to have an honest evaluation there. Did I accomplish the goal that I set out to accomplish? Then I ask myself two questions. It's either yes or no, and then why it worked or why it didn't. I mean, I'm not very complicated, Shannon. You know me. I'm just really simple. Right. It's just exactly either the play's gonna work or it doesn't, right? You get the first down or you don't, right? You score or you punt, right? It's like it's all there. And so it's real simple. Did you either I reached the goal or I didn't, and then why it worked or why it didn't. And when you do that, that's creating the reflection. So I'm learning the lessons from my day for what? For my direction tomorrow. But if I don't have the reflection, I just carry the feeling and not the lesson. That's why I always say learn the lesson, but leave the depression. Right. Because if I lost yesterday, I can't carry that loss into the next day. Every golfer is going to tell you can't hit the next shot thinking about the last bad shot, right? It's not going to work out well. So you got to be able to leave that behind and start the next day. But I need the lesson from this day. Win or lose, I need the lesson. And then the next day I start with that fresh direction, right? And if I can create this pattern in my life of reflection and direction, end the day with reflection, start the next day with direction, those are some of the practical things that help me, that mindset reset, get me refocused on what I need to do tomorrow to be successful.
So in that, and it's one of those, like, you hear it and you're like, I'm going to run through a brick wall. I've got it. But then the noise creeps in and the doubt creeps in and you start running the tape on all the, the past mistakes, the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, I'm running out of time, all the things that cloud that mindset reset. How do you coach people to acknowledge and move on from those emotions?
Very good. That's a great question. So what, and I think it ties into exactly what you just said a second ago. You're like, I get fired up and I run through a brick wall, right? And what happens is we understand that motivation doesn't work by itself. Do we need motivation? Absolutely, man. I love motivation. Do we need inspiration? 100% we need it, but it doesn't work by itself, right? And so what I teach people is it's not just about motivation, right? It's about visualization of a future identity. Okay. Whenever your vision of the future, or we could say your story of the future, becomes louder than the story of your past, that's when you begin to take steps forward. So, what we want to work on is creating a clear vision of who we want to be in the future, right? I like to say the clarity of vision shapes the quality of decision. I've got to make quality decisions today that are going to move me forward. But those decisions are driven by what? My vision of who I want to be and what I want to accomplish in the future. But what happens to most people is the past is bigger than the future. The past is louder than the future. So what we have to constantly work on is creating a clear vision of who I can be in the future. And when you keep working that muscle to create this clear picture of the person you want to be, and I really say more about be than do, okay? Because it's really about identity, right? It's about my identification. Do I see myself becoming this person in the future? The stronger that gets in the future, visualization, who I want to be, man, that's the thing that helps me with the noise in my past, because there's nothing you can do. Your mind's always going to be telling you a story. You're always going to be listening to stories. That's what life is. Life is just a whole bunch of stories mashed together. So what we have to do is create this new story, turn up the volume, if we would, right? Crank the volume of the story of who I am becoming and not who I was in the past. And that just takes work. That takes process. That takes writing it down every single day. This is who I will be in the future. I will be this kind of person. Now, my past doesn't say this, right? Because my past says you blew the last opportunity, you made this mistake, you did that wrong thing that you said you were never going to do, whatever it is. But I'm writing about my future, and this is who I'm going to be. And I let the volume of that get louder than the voices of my past, and that just takes work. But the clearer I can get that vision, then the better quality decision I can begin to make each and every day.
Anyone who has, accomplished a goal, I think recognizes what you said about, you need motivation, you need inspiration, but you cannot white knuckle success. You have to have that underlying purpose. And that's what you're talking about.
That's right.
This destination of who you will become is the narrative that is so much louder than the past that becomes your purpose.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that you can have a desire, right? Like people have a desire for success, right? But then they don't have a design for success. And what happens is when we have a desire for something, but we don't have a design that matches it, the thing that fills that void there between my desire and my design is frustration. And so I get frustrated because I have this thing that I really want, but I don't have the habits, the skills, the mentality, whatever it is that will take me there. And then that frustration fills the gap. Well, what most people do is they just lower their desire to meet their current design. They just say, well, I'm just not the type of person that can do this. I don't have what it takes. I'm not smart enough, tough enough, whatever it is. And so they just lower their desire to match their current design. But we don't have to settle in that way. What we can do is we can say, I just need a new design, right? I need a new structure. I need a new system, right? I need some new processes, and I can lift the design of my life to match the desire of my heart. And that's what we want to see people do, is to lift their design so that they really can become who they can be.
So let's talk about habit stacking on that, because that's such a important part of this conversation. You have to have, I love this term. And at first it sounds like a double negative, but it's not. This habitual habits. Habitual habits are things that you do so consistently, they are on autopilot. Like it is brushing your teeth is a habitual habit. And I think that there is room for the adoption and design of habitual habits that help you in this construct of I want to be great. I want to be elite. I want to design my life to have this greater purpose. Let's break that down. How do
Yeah.
you start stacking habits? Where do you begin? And what are some just core foundational habitual habits? Okay, before we jump back in, this matters. One of the biggest misconceptions in our profession is that waiting is neutral. It's not. Time spent in a misaligned model can quietly erode enterprise value and long-term optionality. RFG Advisory exists to help advisors take control of their growth with ownership, clarity, and infrastructure built to support scale. If the conversation is hitting too close to home, click the link in the show notes or visit rfgadvisory.com to book your confidential 15-minute call.
Yeah, here's the thing that I feel like most people don't want to do, and that is to start really small. Most people hear and they're like, I'm gonna do it all, right? I want that habit and this habit, and I think I think that's the reason with New Year's resolutions is because people write 10 things down, 12 things down, 20 things down that they want to change in the new year, and they start, and it just gets overwhelming. But if they just wrote one thing down, man, it'd be something to focus on. But there's something in us that's like, that feels too small, that feels insignificant. But what it is it's movement. Right? It's movement. And that's what we need. If you want to build momentum, you have to just start with movement. And most people, most people are not willing to start small enough. That's the problem. I, I think it's because it feels insignificant. I have so far to go, right? I mean, I see who I want to be, and I'm nowhere close to who I want to be. And there's so many things that need to change, and I've got to change these things now so I can get there without realizing the compound effect. And if you could just change one, it builds into 2 and 3 and 4, and you get 5 years down the road, and you look back and you're like, wow, and look, 10-year future, and you look back, you're like, man, I can't believe how many things have changed in my life. But when we go, I want to change all the things, you get 10-year future, and you're still the same. So nothing changed because it was overwhelming. But if you can just start small and compound, come on, you guys are in the financial industry. You know the little penny illustration. You double a penny every day, right? For in 1 month, you end up with all this. It's like, wow, we understand the compound effect when it comes to money, but it's the same with habits. And most people just aren't willing to start small enough. And if you're not willing to start small, so it's just a simple thing of like, man, I want to get in shape. I want to do mobility. Okay, what if just when you made your coffee and just in those few seconds, what if you just leaned over, did a little hamstring hang, try to touch your, whatever you can, your kneecaps, your shins, your toes, whatever, right? You just did some twist, right? And that's what you started with. Most people are like, come on, man. Like, I'm so stiff. I'm so whatever. But if that's where you started, it would build and be like, man, I feel better. Like, wow, I can tell the difference. So then you're like, well, man, I might do a little extra. I might do a little more. And there's a great resource. I mean, Atomic Habits, James Clear. I mean, he goes into all the things about if you want to go to the gym, just lay out your clothes. which seems foolish, right? I mean, just people laugh at that. Like, just lay out your clothes, right? You don't even go to the gym. You don't even have to put your clothes on. You just lay them out, right? The next day, like you put your clothes on, tie your shoes, but you don't even go to the gym. He's like, the next day, put your clothes on and just drive to the gym and don't even go in, right? And people are like, that's stupid. That's dumb. That's a waste of time. But what he's doing is he's creating the small wins. And that's why most people don't get to the big wins, because they look at that and they're like, that's insignificant. That's foolish. That's not what I'm going for. But if you're willing to do the small things, you can see big changes and big results.
And this is what I love about the 24-hour reset is that there is no failure. Every
Right.
single day is start the clock over every day.
Exactly.
And that's where I feel like, what you're saying, these micro habits that you build on at any moment when you fall off, when you stop going to the gym, when you stop showing up for your team, when you get off course with how you're designing your team meeting, whatever it is, it's like the next day, recommit.
Yes.
24
right.
hours.
Yes. Yeah. And I would even go a step further to say what most people do is they let the failure of that day become their identity. Right. And for me, it's just data.
Right.
It's just data. My identity is where? In the future is what we just talked about. The visualization of identity. Who I am is in the future. That's my identity. That's the person that I am in the future. I see that person. So when I failed yesterday, that's not my identity. I'm not a loser. I'm not a failure. I'm not someone who breaks promises. No, because I see myself so clearly in the future. Yesterday was just data for me. So I'm like, why did I not go to the gym yesterday? Why did I eat what I said I wasn't going to eat? Oh, it's because I didn't eat breakfast. I didn't eat lunch. I got to 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I was so hungry and I just reaching for anything I could get. Okay. Oh, okay. So that's just data. There's a pattern there. I'm like, okay, so if I eat the right thing in the morning, okay. And so I start to see that, right? Like whatever it is, from nutrition to dehydration, what, like I start to see these patterns and I'm like, okay, so it's just data. That's not my identity. My identity lives in the future. But what most people do is, this is who I am. This is what it starts to feel personal. It's not personal. It's just data. It's helping me to make better decisions today. And so to your point there, if we can just, that 24-hour reset, that mindset reset, I learned the lesson, because there's a lesson to learn there, but I leave the depression, right? I leave that feeling bad and that identity. No. Identity's out here, but I'm going to take the data and go, I learned something yesterday. I'm going to put that into practice today.
So I
Yeah.
want to talk about the power of words. You said, as you were just speaking, the I am statement, one of the most powerful statements that declarative I am. Let's talk about language. And I caught myself the other day, and I'm a big believer that, what you speak is what you reap. It has just this incredible ripple effect on everyone around you, on your dreams, on what you're building, on your values, on really everything. And I was framing up about our, new president, Ed Swenson, joining, and just talking about how excited I am about that. And I found myself saying, I was worried I was going to run out of runway. Like, there's so much that RFG can do for our advisors and our team and the industry. And I was afraid I was going to run out of runway. We need more, we need his firepower, his talent, his experience. And as the words left my lips, I almost, it felt like I had a rubber band on my wrist and it like snapped me. And I was like, that's the wrong framing. It's not I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I am afraid, negative. It's not that I'm afraid I'm going to run out of runway. It is, imagine the impact we can have aligned with a leader like Ed. Same idea, just completely different framing of words. So this is your, as a coach, as a leader, your special gift, your 10x impact is in words. What do they mean to you? What is that like? How do you think about language?
Oh, well, I think, there's a couple ways is I think that language sets culture, right? And the first culture that language sets, right, is the language for you, the language of your culture, right? Like I talk about ourselves as we are our own greenhouse, right? And you can grow whatever you want to grow in this greenhouse. One, you got to know what you want to grow, right? And then you have to speak that. Like you have to take care of that. But I think it also applies to outside, like team and culture. Words establish culture. Culture determines we talk about culture, atmosphere, environment. It determines what grows and what doesn't. So if words are setting the culture, right, and culture determines what grows, we understand the importance of words, that words are going to determine what grows and what dies in my life. Right. And so that's where I always come back to. That's the power of words. And so this is why I always talk about the power of visualization in the future. And I speak to who I am becoming. Why? Because that's what's going to grow in my life. If I look over my shoulder and we do what we were just talking about, I talk about all the mistakes and the failures, right? Then these things are dying in my, I am a screw up. I am a forgetful person. I am all of these things. That's what is being created in my future. And those things are, those good things are dying as I'm moving forward. I really do believe in the power of words to establish the environment and the atmosphere, the culture that is going to allow things to thrive. So we have to be very, very careful about what we say. Anytime you attach I am, you better listen for what that next word is. And if that's not your preferred future, if that's not who you see yourself being, I love the example you use that feel like that wristband pop, right? Boom. And you were like, whoa, wait a minute. I need to re-say that right now. I need to correct that right now in the moment. I don't need to be like, oh, I'm not going to say that again. No, your brain needs to hear you say something different right there in the moment. And so I really do believe in the power of words to grow things in our life.
I just want to underscore that because what you said is so profoundly important of I'm going to correct it right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to correct it in the moment. We practice as one of our core values radical candor. And the reason I love that as a core value is it gives you and your partners and your teammates the grace to share feedback and receive feedback in real time. And that like reflexive instinct when you catch yourself in the negative I am, in the self-defeating I am, in the limiting I am, you have to correct it immediately.
Yes. It makes sense, right? In sports, I'm not going to go out on the football field, let my players do it wrong and be like, we'll fix that next week. I'm like, get back on the line, run it again. We're fixing this in the moment, right? So we understand it in these areas, right? But it's the same with us. I can't just do it wrong and be like, okay, well, next week or next time. It's like, no, I need to fix that in the moment. This is one thing that we brought even into our own family. As you know, we got 5 kids, and me and my wife, we've been married for 21 years. This is one of the things that we practice. We practice the do-over. When we do something wrong, when we say it in a way that we don't want to say it, we say, "Hey, can I get a do-over? Can I redo that? Because I need to redo it right here in the moment. Because what I'm doing is I'm rewiring my brain. It's literally what's happening. I mean, in neuroscience, I'm rewiring my brain. So I've got to practice doing it right before I'm going to do it right next time. I can't just say, well, next time I'm going to say it differently. No, your brain has, what wires together or what fires together wires together, right? So I'm trying to rewire my brain. So I've got to create the fire mechanism of going, this is how we're going to do this in the future if I want it to actually change. And so to your point, you need to say it again right away. You need to correct yourself right away. Say it right, do it right, because you're teaching your brain to go, this is the way that we respond to this. This is how we react to it. This is the way we're going to be in the future. And if you don't correct it in the moment, it's going to be the same thing next time, which is what we know to be true about you get in the cycle and the pattern, and life stays the same because but they don't want it to stay the same. They're like, I want to do something different, but it stays in the same. And I don't want to do that again. And I don't want to fall into that. But it stays the same. Why? Because you have to correct it in the moment to create a new pathway.
Yes. So last year, you and I did a podcast talking about having a word of the year. And it has been so interesting. So my word of 2025 was elevate. I wanted to elevate myself as a leader, as a wife, as a mother. I wanted to elevate those around me. I wanted to elevate RFG and the impact that we can have on the advisors that we serve. And it's pretty remarkable. You don't know when you set an intention around a word for a year, you don't know what the outcome will be. But I wrote it, I followed your advice. I wrote it on a Post-it note. I put it on, right on my desk. I look at it every single day I'm in the office. Elevate, elevate, elevate. What am I doing to elevate myself, to elevate? How am I honoring the promise that I've made to myself to elevate? And it's pretty remarkable to come to the end of the year, and we've talked about Ed Swenson joining us as president. That's just a massive elevation of the talent that we have on the team. Doug Nelson joining us as CFO, massive elevation of the team. The amount that we've invested in technology to serve our advisors, the way that we've built trust within our team from getting reps in and iterating to excellence and really learning from our mistakes. Elevate everything we do. When I look at our board and how we're functioning, when I look at what we've got planned for 2026, I can trace everything back to it's been elevated. Everything from 2025 is elevated from 2024 and has set us on this incredible trajectory for 2026. I mean, what?
Absolutely. And so here's what I would say. Then this is a powerful point. Is your word of the year, it is not just aspirational, it's operational. And this is where they go like, word of the year. I mean, come on. Are we kidding? Like what? Because they're just locked into thinking, oh, that's just an aspiration. No. Your word's not aspiration. It's operation because it becomes your filter. Is this behavior going to elevate my family? Is this practice going to elevate our business? Is this person going to elevate us and move us closer to our goal? It becomes the filter. It is strictly 100% operational. It does not just live out there in la la land about, yay, we're going to elevate, right? It's like, no, it becomes the filter, the decision-making metric that I use on all of my decisions to go, is this going to take me where I'm trying to go? And it is such a powerful operational tool. And so that's what I would say is like when you choose that word, man, it becomes the filter that you're using. So it's not a coincidence this year that these people join your team. It's not a coincidence that you do these things. Why? Because your filter became, is this going to elevate us? Is this going to take the company? Is this going to take where we're trying to go? It's operational. It's a filter. And so it's not just some rah word that we go, oh, yeah, this is going to be great. No, it becomes our decision-making metrics for the year. And that's what it allows it. One of the great things is it allows us to say no quicker, right? Because if we look at something and it's not going to elevate, we're like, no, I'm not doing that. That's not worth my time. That's not worth our investment. No, that's not going to help us elevate. No. So it helps us to say no faster, and it helps us to say yes clearer. I know my yes. Yes, that's going to elevate us. This is what it's going to take, and this is how long it's going to. Yeah, but that's what's going to get us there. Let's do it. That it makes my yes clear and my no quicker. And so we have to have this word because it is so operational to us going to where we want to go in the year.
Well, and I can't wait. I'm definitely going to do it again. I'm going to put it out. We put it out to all of our advisors and our team. And I think I probably received maybe 60 words, whether it's from, my LinkedIn friends or through our team. And I almost feel like, Phillip, this is something that I love to collaborate with you. But I was like, gosh, wouldn't it be fun over, you set a 5-year, you take a sample set of people and like, what is your word each year? What are the tangible outcomes of it? Compile it into a little, booklet, because it is such a, and this is what I think is interesting about habitual habits and what you were touching on this micro movement
Yeah.
shifts everything in your life. Like the simplicity of pick a word for a year, read it every single day, filter it as is it a hell yes or is it a hell no through that word. That's just a stackable get 1% better every day habit.
Yeah, that's right. And here's what I would say, because you said I got 60 people that gave me their word. I can promise you this: one of those 60 people, by the time they got to February, they had forgotten their word. And if you asked them right now, they'd be like, "Oh God, what word did I pick?" Right? They don't even know. Here's what I would say: start over, do it again, reset. Right? Just because it didn't work for you in 2025 doesn't mean it's not going to work for you in 2026. Right? The principle works. I remember the first time I heard. I got this from that word of the year from John Gordon. I heard him years ago. I picked the word. Listen, that's what happened to me my first time. It was, 12, 14 years ago. I picked my word. And then I got to like mid point of the year and I'm like, man, there was that word. What was that word? I can't even remember what word I chose. Right. But I just kept on coming back to it. I kept on coming back to it. I kept on coming back to it. And then when you have your word and then you share your word. My word this year was alive. I'm going to live alive. Okay. I'm going to do things right. I'm just going to create movement, right? I'm going to live alive. Well, here's what my kids will do. My kids will be like, hey dad, will you come, play with me, or will you come tuck me in bed? My girls, right. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to, and they're like, but didn't you say you were going to live alive this year? Like you're gonna stay on the couch and watch the game, or you gonna live alive and come tuck me in bed? And it's like, oh man, that's right. Okay, here I come, right? And so they're holding me accountable to that word. So it's not just for you. When you share it with those people around you, man, they help you, because that's really what I want. Right? That's what I really want. And so it really begins to work in your favor.
I want to talk about resilience, but before we do, you just touched on something that I think is incredibly important, which is the power of 5. Who you surround yourself with becomes who you are. You're talking about your family and your girls holding you accountable. Let's unpack that a little bit, because it is an essential part of this alignment of who you want to become in the future, this good intentional habits that you are building. If you are surrounded by people who are anchors, if you have not done the hard work of who are the power of 5 around me, it makes it very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting you bring that up today. I was just working with an executive yesterday, and we got into this conversation. I'm asking him, "Hey, what are your takeaways from 2025?" And he's talking through some of the, yeah, he had some difficult things that happened in the beginning of the year, and he just said, "Man, my confidence was shaken." Right now, he's getting his confidence back. Right, all these things, and he's like, "Man, I just, he's walking out with this lesson to go." Man, when my confidence started shaking, I started, sports analogy, right? I started like playing not to lose instead of playing to win, right? I kind of got in a prevent defense, right? They say prevent defense, the only thing it prevents you from doing is winning, right? It's like, we got to stay aggressive. We got to keep playing to win, right? And he just said, I don't want to do that anymore. But as he was telling me the story of how he got kind of back, he said, man, my team just really came around me. And my team loved me well. They encouraged me, right? They really picked me back up, right? And so that wasn't his takeaway. His takeaway was, I don't want my confidence to be shaken like that. I can't get into a place where I'm playing not to lose. I got to keep the mentality of playing to win. I brought the takeaway of exactly what you're saying right now. Don't miss this takeaway, is that the people you put around you are so important, because no matter how much you say, I don't want my confidence to be shaken, it's only a matter of time. You're human. You're human, right? Like, and I know as long as me and you are human, then we will make mistakes and we will and our confidence is going to be shaken. But the takeaway is, and that's a good goal. I mean, that's a good thing to go, okay, I want to keep playing to finishing those takeaways. But what I am saying is the people you have around you are so important, because in that moment, that word encourage means to put courage in, right? They were able to put their courage back into him and say, hey, you're our leader. You're our guy. We believe in you, right? They loved him well in that moment. And now he got his courage back, right? He got his clarity back. And now he's playing to win coming into the end of the year, rolling into 2026. But to your point, the five, the power of five, the power of the people that you have around you. And it really leads us into the resilience conversation, because the thing that I talk about, and we've talked about the stance to advance, right? And the stance to advance, it's excellence and resilience. What excellence is me doing my best to bring the best out of me. We could say that that's playing to win and not just playing not to lose, right? Like, okay, that's excellence. I want to bring excellence out. But once again, we know there will be a day. We don't want to admit this. We don't like this as winners and champions, but there will be a day when you don't do what you said you were going to do. There's going to be a day when you respond a way that you're like, God, why did I say that? Why did I do that? We know those things are going to happen. There's going to be a day where you miss the mark of excellence. It's going to happen. And that's why resilience is so important. Resilience is responding the best when you didn't do your best or when things aren't their best. And the way that you respond in those moments has a lot to do with who you have around you. Because when I miss the mark of excellence and I have the people around me that hold me up, that pick me up, right? Dust me off and say, hey, that's okay. You're a winner. I know who you are. You're our leader. Let's go. Come on. Right. In that moment, right, it gives me what I need to respond the right way, to be resilient, right? And so I think that is vitally important. The people that you surround yourself with are going to be key in you being able to respond the way that you need to respond in the challenging moments.
So let's talk about two things as it relates to resiliency. And I was thinking about this, like framing of, now more than ever with AI and just the way the world is changing, you need to develop this this underlying resilience. And then I thought, what a stupid frame up, because the world has always been living in a dynamic state of change. If we go back to COVID, we were living in this, like, you never needed resilience, now more than ever. If you go back to the market crash in 2008, you never needed resilience more. You go back to World War II, you never needed resilience. I mean, history is littered with times that demand us to show up and be resilient. So 2 questions on this. The first is, can you be resilient if you are not investing in your physical body to be strong?
Mm. I think that's more challenging. I'm not going to say that you can't. I'm just going to say percentages are not in your favor, right? I think that there is an element of resilience that comes whenever whenever we have a pattern of making ourselves do hard things, right? When you have the pattern of making yourself do hard things, I think one of the easiest ways to do that is physical exercise, right? There's never a day if I'm sitting on the couch, I'm like, you know what I really want to do right now? I want to just go do some squats and no, it's like, I'm never going to choose that, right? But it's making myself do hard things. I do believe that you can do that in some other way. So that's why I say I don't think it's a 100%, like you can't be resilient if you don't. Right? I just think it's one of the easiest ways to perpetually make yourself do hard things, which what you're doing is you're building up, right, that resiliency muscle, so that when things happen outside of your control, right, things happen out there, you're going to be better to respond to those things and do the hard thing you need to do. So I do think percentage wise, I am a big proponent of exercise and endurance in that way.
What you're talking about in terms of seeking out doing hard things,
Yeah.
is so critically important. It's just, you've got to be resilient. You have to get the reps in. You have
Yep.
to these micro moments of doing hard things builds that resiliency, builds that muscle memory. So when something real that is hard, that demands resilience presents itself,
Yeah.
you're not, experiencing it for the very first time.
Yeah. This is one of the things that we do. We have a saying in our family, the Deas family. We have a motto kind of for every year for our family. And one year, our motto was, "We do hard things." So in the Deas family, we do hard things, right? And so my kids will say that all the time. We do hard things is what we do. And one of the ways that we start that, right, is with our kids. Like, whatever my wife cooks, my kids eat. Right? Not that they have to eat their whole plate. It's not what I'm saying. Like, they eat everything on your plate. That's not what I'm saying. But they have to eat. They have to eat everything that was put on their plate. Right? Like, not all, but they have to. They have to eat it. Well, you have kids like, no, I don't. Whatever texture or this or that taste or whatever. Right? And we make them do that because what we are teaching them is like, hey, we know that this is hard for you, but this is good for you, because if they can develop doing what they don't want to do at the dinner table when they're 4, it's going to help them when they're 14. It's going to help them when they're 24 and 34, because they are building the habit of doing things that they don't want to do, I mean, if we really just boil life down, can you do what you need to do? And can you say no to what you need to say no to? At the end of the day, that is life. If we just boil it down, can I say yes to what I need to say yes to? Can I say no to what I need to say no to? If I can do those things, and those things are hard. It's hard to say yes to the things that we need to do. It's hard to say no to the things that we want to say yes to, right? Those things are hard. But if you can do hard things, you can have tremendous success in anything. And so that's where we started. We started right there, and we just believe that, man, doing those hard things, it's building that resilience muscle so that they can deal with the other hard things that are coming in their life, because life is hard.
Right, right. So the other question around resiliency has to, circle back to this notion of radical candor and checking in, and I want to frame it up in the context of partnership, because I want to talk about some of 2026 goals and the framework of what are you going to keep, what are you going to add, what are you going to drop. So one of the things that I think that I've really learned as it relates to resiliency within a team, resiliency within a business partnership, and this is applicable to life and everything outside, but let's talk about business, is the importance of honesty. And being able to have that like vulnerability of checking in and answering the question honestly, how are you? How are you doing? Because you talked earlier about one of your clients and their team pouring in the courage, believing in that leader. That leader would never have experienced that courage and that pouring in had they not been vulnerable. And so it's almost the contrast of resiliency and softness, resiliency and vulnerability. They stand in polar opposites of each other, but they're both essential for the other to survive and thrive.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think Brene Brown, right? She writes about this, and if anybody listening hasn't, got into her work, I mean, she says there is no courage without vulnerability, right? I mean, this is what she does. She's the expert, right? And I truly believe that, right? There is no courage without vulnerability, right? What you're talking about, the toughest people in the world, where you're talking about the Navy SEALs, when you get in there and you start listening to them talk about how they operate, the level of vulnerability is as high as anything I've ever heard. And these are the toughest people in the world, right? Like, I mean, you think there's other people. These guys are the real deal, and it's life or death where they are, right? And they are incredibly vulnerable. And so it allows us to take a lesson away as leaders and go, okay, if that's how they're operating in the most difficult of situations and circumstances, hey, this is how we need to be operating, right? Where we are today. And so that honesty, But then it gets into this is why I always say that I think being 100% gut level honest with yourself is the hardest thing that you will ever do in your life. I've been saying that for a decade. I stand by that today. I really do believe it's the hardest thing to be honest about your motives, honest about your action, to be 100% gut level honest with yourself is the hardest thing that you will ever do. And so if we can get good at being honest with ourselves first, then we get to be honest with others. That's the power of honesty, is when I get really good about being honest with myself, that creates vulnerability, right? That helps me to connect with other people. And then I can be honest with you. And it's not me pointing my finger and saying, these are all the things that are wrong with you. Now we can have these conversations that build us, right? That build the team, that really make the team. But it comes from that ability to be honest with yourself, which creates vulnerability, right? Of this is who we are. And man, I think that there is no success, right, without vulnerability, because real courage is only going to come from that. And anything we do that's great is going to require courage.
I love that. So good. All right. So to wrap us up, 2026, we're right around the corner. We need to reflect and identify a word of the year, turn that into not just an inspirational word, but an operating system, a filter. And then I love this discipline. And again, it's so simple of what are you going to keep? What are you going to add? And what are you going to drop? So I'll share, mine. And I'm still, I got a couple more weeks. I'm still working on my full plan for 2026, but I'm going to keep the cadence for how we run our team meetings and our one-on-one. We've always had very structured cadence, the way we plan our calendar, the way we run our teams and our functional teams and the cross-functional collaboration. But this year, we adopted a more structured and standardized format that is preached in, the EOS traction, where you have a check-in, this emotional checking in, you celebrate wins, and then you go through a framework that I have absolutely loved, which is IDS: identify, discuss, and solve. And what I love about that is, one, it brings all voices of your team around the table. There is no monopoly on good ideas, so get everyone invested. But the part of it that really speaks culturally to me is the S: identify the problem, discuss the problem, and solve. Move towards action. I always say that one of RFG's greatest superpowers is we're fantastic listeners, but what we're even better at is execution. We're going to hear you and we're going to do something about it. Be in that stance, ready to act. So I'm going to keep the cadence for how we run our teams and the way that we're managing our meetings. I am going to add, and it's interesting that you started at the top of the call or the top of the podcast with this around journaling. I am a very inconsistent journaler. I tend to grab my journal in moments of what I'll call darkness, like when I need it. I'm not great at that. I'm going to celebrate the wins when things are going well. I'm neglectful of journaling. And yet I've got notebooks all over my house where I'm a visual processor. So I'm going to write it down, read it. So I am committing to journaling. And I love the framework of reflection and then action the next day. And then I'm going to drop, I have been working towards this for many years, and it is a habitual bad habit. The belief, one, that I have, that there is no personal cost from calendar stacking. I will run my calendar like on the, 30-minute interval from sunup to sundown, 5 days a week, without a break, the stacked back-to-back meetings. It takes a physical toll. It takes an emotional toll. It negatively impacts my team. It puts a lot of stress on my direct support team. It is, and I have I think I have done every hack around color coding my calendar and analyzing the data and hiring a coach to analyze. Like, I've done it all. And what I realize, if I'm just honest about it, I'm not disciplined. I'm not disciplined. I don't protect my time. I don't do a great job of what am I saying yes to? What am I saying no to? I don't allow my team to own enough on that it's coming off my plate. So 2026 is a non-negotiable, and I like why I'm coupling the ad of the journaling is that is going to be my accountability partner on the calendar management.
That's good. I love that. I love that. That's fantastic. And it's true. We have to give ourselves space, right? You have to give yourself some space. In that space is where clarity comes, where new ideas, innovation, right? Like all of these things are coming. And man, whenever there's demands, there's deadlines, there's all these things, and we can. But we do have to, as leaders, we have to create space for the next big idea. We have to create space to dream, to think about what's next. And if we don't do that, then we're really limiting our long-term effectiveness, right? And so I can be really productive today, but man, I really need to be out there looking around the next corner, thinking about where we're headed, what are going to be the consequences to this or that, right? I need to be out there. And so I think that you're really onto something. And I think even, as you're kind of like in these last couple of weeks thinking of your word for the year, I think there needs to be some synergy between some of these things. And I think there could be a word that kind of like brings some of this together to go, man, this is what I'm going to be way better at when I get to December of 26, right?
Mm-hmm. All right. So final parting words for how to make 2026 just the most impactful year, the pivot point year, the catalytic year.
Yeah, I think you kind of touched on it with your framework. One of the frameworks that I use with my clients is just four helpful questions, right? What's working? What's working? What's broken? What's missing? And what's confusing? And the follow up to those things is what's working, and then what do you do? How can we amplify that? So I want to identify what's working right now, and how can I get more of what is working in my life, right? What's broken? Okay, that needs to be fixed, which then creates evaluation, right? Do I need, it's just like if something breaks in the house, it's like, do we need to pay to get that fixed? Do we just need to trash it because we're not using it anyway, right? Do we need to just get a new one, right? Like, where is this? If it's broken, I need to evaluate that and then take action on that. Then what's missing, right? What's missing? I need to go, what do I add? What do I need to add? It's missing from my schedule. How do I add it? How do I get it into my schedule? And then finally, what's confusing? I just need to create clarity. And I think for so many, that last question is one of the things that really keeps us from moving forward, is that we are confused about direction. We're confused about our identity in the future. We're confused about what's actually possible. We're confused about what we need to do next. We're confused about this relationship. And we live in a state of confusion, right? And we don't ever force the clarity. I've got to force clarity. And when I force the clarity, I get clear about what's the direction, what's the identity, what's the next step. Now I have something to move with. And so that's what I'm always really challenging my clients with, is like, hey, there is things in your life that are confusing right now. Spend the time. I know it's hard, it's difficult, but force the clarity in those things, because once again, that clarity of vision creates a quality decision. I can't have quality decisions today if I don't have clarity. And so while we all kind of know what's broken, we all kind of know what I need to add, how do I amplify? We all kind of know those things. It's still good to get it down, but when it comes to confusing, man, honesty, back to your point, being honest about what am I really just confused about right now in my life? And how can I get that clarity so that I can make the better decisions? And I think at the end of the day, that's what 2026, you want a better 2026. How do you get quality decisions? How do you get more quality decisions? If you get more quality decisions in a daily basis, stacking day upon day, month upon month, I can guarantee you that 2026 is going to be a great year.
Wow. Have you picked your word of the year?
I have not picked my word of the year. I got a couple that I'm just kind of.
Yeah, noodling.
Yeah, exactly. So but I'm getting close.
All right, we'll circle back to it. Phillip, love you, appreciate you so
Thank you.
much. This was an amazing time together, and what a way to kick off 26. I wish you and your
Man.
family such a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we're going
Thank
to
you so much.
absolutely knock it out of the park for 26. And you're going to be at our advisor growth retreat in March.
Oh, man, I can't wait.
You're the
I
opening
can't wait.
keynote on day one, so we're going to,
Let's go.
let's go.
Let's go. Awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Disruption Blueprint podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.rfgadvisory.com or schedule a call on our advisor resources page. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. Information here may be provided in part by third-party sources. These sources are generally deemed to be reliable. However, neither our guest nor RFG Advisory guarantee the accuracy of third-party sources. The views expressed here are those of our guest. They do not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, its employees, or its clients. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by RFG Advisory or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Securities offered by registered representatives of Private Client Services, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor. Private Client Services and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place. RFG Advisory is an SEC-registered investment advisor. SEC registration does not constitute an endorsement of RFG by the Commission, nor does it indicate that RFG or any associated investment advisory representative has attained a particular level of skill or ability.